mynews.studio.
Beneath forests, fungi are weaving what you could call carbon highways, storing about a third of our fossil emissions. But here's the puzzle: 90% of these underground hotspots aren't protected.
Today is January 22nd, 2026. Let's start with something that's almost invisible: fungi in soil. We often talk about trees as carbon sinks, but what about what's happening beneath our feet?
That's where Dr. Toby Keir's research really shifts our understanding. For tens of millions of years, plants and mycorrhizal fungi have been working together. Fungi act as extended roots, connecting plants across whole landscapes, what scientists sometimes call the wood wide web. These networks let plants trade carbon for nutrients, for water. Keir's team actually used nanoprobes to watch fungi calculate how to share resources, and in the process, plants become reliant on them.
When you say plants become reliant, do you mean they're paying fungi with carbon to get those nutrients?
Exactly. Every year, plants send about 13 billion tons of CO2, so a third of fossil fuel emissions, down into these fungal networks. The fungi hold it in the soil, which helps with climate regulation, biodiversity, even the way our food systems work.
13 billion tons. But these underground networks must be fragile, right? How much of them are actually protected?
Here's the catch: 90% of the most carbon-rich fungal hotspots are unprotected. They're threatened by things like deforestation, erosion, and especially intensive agriculture. So we're at risk of losing a major defense against climate change. Keir's work in 2011 actually described these networks as biological markets, where microbes are trading resources to keep ecosystems stable.
How do we even know where these hotspots are? It can't be easy to map something you can't see.
That's why Keir's co-founded the Society for the Protection of Underground Networks, or SPUN. They've mapped fungal biodiversity in what they call the Underground Atlas. Using 2.8 billion DNA sequences collected from 130 countries, this atlas helps show exactly where conservation efforts can be most effective.
And this all led to Keir's winning the 2026 Tyler Prize for Environmental Achievement.
Yes, she was awarded the prize on January 14th. It's sometimes called the Nobel Prize for the Environment. But the award also highlights her action, especially SPUN's Underground Advocates program, which brings indigenous communities and policymakers into the effort to protect these fungal networks.
What's the scale of what's possible? If we restored these fungi, could it really make a dent in carbon emissions?
If we restored fungal networks in just 45% of the key areas, we could potentially sequester 500 million tons of CO2 each year. But here's the thing: less than 0.02% of land has actually been surveyed for these networks. There's still a lot we don't understand.
Let's bring in some listener questions. First one: how do fungi actually trap carbon? Can this process scale?
Fungi colonize plant roots and even change plant genes, so the plants trade sugars for nutrients. As CO2 levels rise, these underground networks could absorb even more carbon, provided we keep them intact and expand them, especially on farmland or newly forested areas. Protecting those hotspots is crucial.
Next, how do natural solutions like fungi stack up against tech-based carbon capture?
Fungi are less expensive, and there are extra benefits, like healthier soil and better pollinators. But they're sensitive to disruptions from plowing or pollution. Unlike engineered tech, fungi need strong policy support and careful mapping to really work at a global level.
What is SPUN doing to focus on those critical hotspots around the world?
SPUN's Underground Atlas shows where the richest fungal diversity is, especially in places outside of any current protections. Their new Underground Advocates program, which launched this month, is training scientists in legal and policy skills so they can document, protect, and restore these areas.
How do indigenous communities and policymakers fit into this?
SPUN works with scientists, indigenous groups, policymakers, artists, and technologists Together, they map the fungi networks, share the data, and help weave it into conservation planning. Local expertise, when paired with scientific tools, helps decide which networks are most critical to restore.
Last question. What would motivate farmers to protect these fungi?
Kears talks about policy changes and incentives. Things like subsidies or carbon credits for farmers who use fungi-friendly practices. That means skipping disruptive tilling and chemicals, boosting soil health, and storing more carbon. When fungi are part of official climate strategies, these benefits become recognized.
So, why does this all matter at this moment?
With climate risks growing, fungi could offer a natural, scalable way to take up a third of fossil emissions. Keir's Tyler Prize win isn't just about science, it's about bringing research, policy, and local action together to avoid soil loss and the decline of biodiversity worldwide.
Fungi, usually unnoticed, might be a key piece in climate resilience. Are we ready to map and protect them before these networks are gone?
That's the question. Thanks for joining us as we explored what's happening beneath our feet.
Thank you for listening. This episode was brought to you by mynews.studio. Give it a try for free.